Hey listeners, Shadows and Sightings is a paranormal comedy podcast. Though we keep things lighthearted, we understand some topics may be sensitive to some listeners. These topics include violence, gore, death, and suicide. If you have trauma related to any of these topics, express caution before listening. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Sometimes I think of like how these cryptids would be like wrestlers or something. Yeah. The Flatwoods Monster to me is not a wrestler. He's a drag queen. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of Shadows and Sightings, a paranormal podcast where we talk about all things creepy, crazy, spooky, strange, and all the stuff in between. I'm Taylor.
I'm Nick.
And today we're going to be talking about a West Virginian legend, the Flatwoods Monster.
Oh, yeah. It's so great. Like, as far as like West Virginia cryptids go, because there's a few. And Flatwoods Monster, the Grafton Monster.
Mildly.
That's true. Like the iconic Mothman. But Flatwoods Monster is definitely up there.
It's definitely up there with the most well-known cryptids of West Virginia, I think. There's so many. There's so many West Virginian cryptids.
I mean, it's not surprising. It's like, smack middle in like Appalachia.
That's true. The Appalachians are just a strange place anyway. It's no surprise that so many, what's the word I'm looking for? Pseudo-humanoid creatures exist.
Yeah.
There's rednecks and hillbillies out there just scientifically manufacturing. I was going to say something different.
It's like this shed's for making meth, and that one over there is for making cryptids. I'm sorry.
Wait, did we just discover how cryptids are made?
Yeah.
At least West Virginian cryptids, they're just...
Yeah, Mothman, he's one part human, one part moonshine.
And one part moth.
Oh my God. If you go on like TikTok, you'll, I don't know, like your algorithm, like it shows me like a lot of,
it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's like random. Every so now it'll kind of like start showing me like these Appalachia, like, horror stories and things like that. Like, don't leave your windows, your blinds open at night when you're in the middle of Appalachia. Something staring in your window is technically inviting it in.
That doesn't seem right.
Yeah, like I was like, well,
how is it staring at you through your window?
So if I'm being a normal tax-paying citizen and I decide to have my blinds open,
right,
minding my own damn business,
like a goddamn American,
and this thing is like staring at me through the window, it now has permission to enter my home. Like, I don't think that really works.
That's not right. That's not how it works. That's not how the judicial system works.
No, that's not how that works. But yeah, TikTok will show me a bunch of, and it's like, always in the mountains of Appalachia, and so I'm sure there's like a whole bunch of other things.
You ever see those TikToks where it looks like an old VHS? Yeah. Like super grainy, and it's like a public service announcement. It's like, if you see a thing that looks like you, but you were already inside your house,
don't open the door.
And then you see like the person, like white eyes and stuff. Oh, those are creepy.
I
think they're so cool.
I love them.
I'd love to see somebody do like a whole movie.
I saw one where it was like kind of like this religious like cult, like TV
TV evangelist?
Yeah, kind of like that. But it's like a public service announcement. Like I'm assuming he's like the pastor or something. Like had like this like a suit on with like a white like ski mask, and it's like a news report. He's like, we have found like a local glutton, and authorities believe that the glutton is currently like living within like the school or whatever, and they had to shut down, and we had to like quarantine like the. There's like another one where it was like, on this date, don't forget to pay your tithes. We'll be sending out an angel to each one of the residents' homes to like pay the tithes or whatever.
Pay the tithes?
Pay your tithes. Tithe? I think it's tithes.
Pay your dues?
Basically,
is that what that is?
It's basically that.
I've never heard it called pay your tithes before, I don't think.
Yeah, it's TITHES, I think, tithes. 10%, pay your tithes. Yeah, that was like growing up. My dad was like, make sure you pay your tithes. But I don't want to.
I ain't getting 10% of my money. How do you have no money?
I just mowed these 10 lawns in like 90-degree ass-sweating weather.
I just made $20 on my own.
Now I got to give 10%.
Yeah, come on.
To the church.
Your dad would probably be like, well, I don't know why you can't just give all of it to the church.
Yeah, right. No, like it's the whole thing.
Nick's dad, if you're listening to this, What's up, buddy?
Yeah. But yeah, it was like, well, dispatch a local angel or whatever, or some type of angel.
Dispatch a local angel.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
It sounds like there's just a police department of angels
no, it's basically
somewhere
what it was.
down the street that they just call on.
It's basically what it was, though. It was like this like public service announcement, and like the church, it was like the Gestapo. They're just sending these angels to your home. But the creepy part was like, if, you know, residents who fail to pay their dues, essentially, like, we're not responsible for whatever happens next.
Right.
It's just like this ominous looking
what a
angel.
scared tactic.
Oh my gosh, dude, it's terrible.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was so cool, and I was like, I really want to see like a series based off of this, because it's just creepy and ominous, and
ooh,
yeah,
I love it.
I gotta show it to you. Like every time it pops up, I've been saving all the videos on my TikTok because like they just look so creepy and cool. Like,
see, that's the thing with like modern horror, is that something as simple as that is way scarier than a lot of the stuff that they put out now. There's just movies that like, did you see Long Legs or anything like that? I haven't seen it, but everybody was like building it up. It had Nicolas Cage in it as like the main villain.
Oh,
but you don't see him until the very end.
Yeah, I did see some of that. Yeah,
and everybody like hyped it up as being this like true modern like classic of a horror movie. And then when people actually went to go see it, they're like, this movie sucks. It's not scary at all. It's like a psychological thriller movie or something like that, but it's not scary. And then you go on TikTok, and there's these creepy videos of people with whited out eyes, and they just are spider crawling through their house after themselves. And that's way creepier than the crazy ideas that Hollywood's coming up to think that are scary.
I think it's like the films and the stories that are, there's like an element of like unease.
Yeah.
Midsummer was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because it's all blatantly right there in the open. They're like not hiding anything. Like, it's these people, they show up here. It's clearly a cult. Mm-hmm. And there's like, you know, this illusion that they're like this, like, you know, free love and, you know, acceptance cult or whatever. And they're kind of, and then, and just throughout the movie as it progresses, you just see more and more things coming out in like little bits and pieces. And it's like the whole story starts coming together. And like probably about like 30 to 45 minutes into the movie, it literally goes from 0 to 100 like that. And then just progressively gets worse. And like,
those are the kind of movies that always hold up though.
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it the whole way through.
Did you get to the part where they start tripping in the field?
No.
Yeah. So like that was like the first thing that like, they take this like drug or whatever, but like how they like started filming it which was really cool. It's it starts like distorting. The screen starts distorting. So like their eyes start getting bigger and stuff like that, and like there's like flashing colors and stuff. Like they're clearly tripping. But it's just like something about like, okay, you're in this environment with these people that you've never even met before, and you're like tripping on like these crazy hallucinogenic like balls. And it's like just like
now was that movie, I don't really remember because it's been a while, was it set in the past or is it a modern day story?
It's a modern day story. Yeah, it's a group of like
they just like went to like Norway or something, right? Or not Norway, but somewhere around that area.
It's like a group of like university students. They're studying like sociology or like anthropology or something like that, and they're like all in the same like major. And their one buddy is like, oh, come visit my family or whatever in Sweden or Norway or whatever, where you can kind of like see how our culture is or whatever. It's like my, you know, I'm sure at the time he doesn't tell him that it's a cult, but you know, he's like, come stay with a couple of days with like my people. And
he's not just going to outright tell him it's a cult.
Yeah, no, well, it's like, well, he was like, come study. I think he was like, come study our religion or whatever. So then they go out there, they take advantage of the opportunity, and they're out there staying with this like this group of like nomads, like living out in the forest, and it just gets weird and
just
like
goes off the rails from there.
There's like the whole entire movie, there's just like this sense of like discomfort,
right? And
that to me is more terrifying. So like the TikTok thing I'm talking about, they never say what the angel will do. They never say like what like it looks like or whatever. They just say it's just like it's a church, so it's supposed to be this like positive thing for society, and it's like obey, or if you don't, like, you know, we'll see what happens.
Obey or die.
And it's just like, but it doesn't ever tell you what exactly the consequences are, and like that to me is more terrifying than like just it makes you think like what could happen,
right? As
opposed to like, you know, Scream where okay, there's somebody at the door with a knife. Like it's pretty straightforward, you know. Like,
I mean that's why Halloween has held up to me, the original Halloween, because it's Michael Myers is in every scene. You just don't see him, but you know he's there. Well, I mean, like not literally, but it's it's the suspense of like eventually he's gonna get you, but
show up
when it's gonna happen, you don't know. And they don't outright. It's not like, oh, the madman jumps out and you're dead. oh, he's back behind the shrubs and he's lurking and he's spying and he's watching. It's like constantly like just building of like, all right, when's he gonna get you? When's it gonna happen?
It's like Tuesday morning, you're working at your cubicle.
It's November 3rd.
You're minding your own damn business. Like,
all right, Tony, I'm gonna go take a piss. I'll be right back. He doesn't come back. Michael Myers is just sitting at the computer typing. 10 minutes later, somebody looks over and is like, did you get a new haircut? Anyways, welcome to Shadows and Sightings, a paranormal podcast. Like we said, we're going to talk about the Flatwoods Monster today. And the anniversary is actually coming up, Nick. I didn't know this until I was doing the research that the first sighting of the Flatwoods Monster is September 12th. So when this episode drops, it'll be like September 10th. So very, very topical decision to make to do this monster on your part. This was Nick's idea to talk about the Flatwoods Monster. So I'm assuming Nick's got some juicy gossip on this flatty.
Yeah, on this
pancake.
On this pancake. this flatwood, flat goes
ass.
By many names. No, he's probably dummy thick under that.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, what does the Flatwoods Monster look like?
There's a couple different like depictions, and I'll get that in a second. So, like you said, September 12th, 1952 is like the origin, like the date that the incident happened. It takes place in Flatwoods, West Virginia, and on that day, it was around dusk, and a couple of, it's in Braxton County, West Virginia. About 6 or 7 kids or so were out playing football when they noticed a red fiery orb come streaking across the sky and crashed in a nearby farm, up over the hill where they were playing. And naturally, they're like, okay, so let's go check it out. So, it's 13-year-olds, 2 brothers, 13-year-old Ed May, 12-year-old Freddie May. Their 10-year-old buddy Tommy Heyer, Gene Lemon, who was a 17-year-old, which I'm assuming was the West Virginia National Guard at the time, and then another kid,
Neil Nunley, I think his name was.
Who was it?
Neil Nunley.
Was that the other kid?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the May brothers, their mom, Kathleen. So the group of them, they see this thing crash. The boys run back home. They grab their mom, and then the group of them travel up the hill up to the nearby farm where they saw the fiery crash. They get up there, and of course Gene's leading the group. First, they see all the debris and the damages and everything. Gene supposedly looked up at a tree and saw glowing red eyes. And then upon investigating a little bit further, this 10-foot monstrosity comes up from behind the tree. And of course, Gene's freaking out. All the other kids are what the fuck is that? They're freaking out. And this 10-foot humanoid being, his skin was, bright red. He had glowing yellow eyes. His robe that he was wearing was like a green metallic. And
so bougie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely bougie. Yeah, no doubt. And then he had claws for hands. He wasn't walking. He was floating above the ground. Yeah. And but
very, very Phantom-esque.
Yeah, exactly.
Spectral.
I think it's where the Phantom of Flatwoods is another, because he doesn't really walk. He kind of just glides or floats along. Mm-hmm. And another thing too that they noted was that it was very foggy. And it could have been from the debris, but they noticed that there was a very dense fog in the air. So they really didn't get a good description, because they're at that point they're probably in fight or flight mode.
Yeah. Seeing a 10-foot monster just come out of the woods while you're just trying to go figure out what the hell just happened.
Yeah,
absolutely. You said you're in flight or fight.
This thing starts coming toward, and then they hightail it out of there.
Right.
I didn't really find any reports of it making any sort of audible, cues.
Everything I've seen also was just kind of more visual. Like you mentioned, they described a strange sickening mist in the air.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wonder if that came with him, or if that was just from him crashing through the barn or something, because there's a bunch of different theories on what the Flatwood Monster is, I think. Most people would agree that it seems to be some sort of intergalactic thing, like an alien.
Yeah, that would make the most sense, because, they connect, they see this fiery orb crash, and then this thing kind of emerges from that. One thing that I didn't, or that I couldn't find, so there's the reports of the visual sighting of the Flatwoods Monster, but I'm not really finding anything on the actual crash site. I didn't find anything like a ship or something crashed.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They knew something crashed, because the like the trees were all like, there was broken branches and everything. There was smoke. So like something did crash into like the field there.
Right.
But there's like no reported evidence of like debris or anything like ever being found, or at least I didn't see anything like that.
What if the Flatwoods Monster, as we know that it looks like, was the spaceship and there was something inside of it?
That's possible.
Was controlling it.
It could have been.
Like a little pod that launched from a bigger spaceship.
Like the little Men in Black aliens.
Yeah,
like
kind of.
Controlling like the little joysticks.
Yeah. Like the brain is a central for the little guy.
No, it could have been. Like the head is just like, that's the Flatwoods Monster, and like the rest of it's like
the rest is just a protective shell, like a spacesuit.
Yeah. Some things to note about the description. So, of course, it's a very small town.
Flatwoods, West Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
In Braxton County.
It's tiny. I looked up the census from 1950.
Let me guess. 46 people.
No. 288.
Close enough.
288. In 1950, the population in Flatwoods, they called it a village. I thought that was kind of weird. And I was like, dude.
Flatwoods Village?
Yeah, like it's
not uncommon, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like that's more of like a European thing. Like in like the United States, we have like townships and we have like...
Yeah, but we also had villages back early, and some dropped the village from their name, but some of them didn't.
Like, I would have guessed that would have been more common back in like the 1600s and 1700s.
Because you had like Salem Village, which is
that what it was?
Which is Danvers now. And Salem itself now was like still Salem, but there was like the city of Salem and then Salem Village outside of it. So I don't think it would be uncommon for it to be called Flatwoods Village.
Yeah, well, 288 people.
It's not big enough to be a town.
No, absolutely.
That's not small enough to be something smaller than a village. I don't know what's smaller than a village.
I don't know. But like I don't know, like growing up around here, we were always told that like, oh, this is a small town. Everybody knows each other. You know?
Yeah.
But then I read that. I'm like, okay, well,
there's even smaller towns that exist.
Like I think ours is like, what, 20,000? I think it's like 20,000. I think it's like
something like that.
The 20, 30,000. 288 people. Literally everybody knows everybody at that point. Yeah. So, very small town. The boys, of course, they reported to the authorities. One interesting thing to note is they were all interviewed and they were asked to draw sketches of what they saw. What they found was that they actually all drew the same thing, which I'm always kind of like iffy about that.
Yeah, because
when it's like, oh yeah, they all drew the same thing, so that it must be real. Okay, well, what
if they just talked about it before?
Exactly.
And they're like, well, if they tell us what it looked like, let's all say the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And
like
then you draw it.
Like a meditated type of thing. Or in these interviews, they never really describe like if they interviewed them separately or if they interviewed them together. Because then if they ask them, like, they're all sitting there and they're like, hey, draw what you saw. All it takes is one boy to look over and see what he's drawing. And then like, oh, he's now he has a natural bias or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think the stories about UFOs and aliens or any like sort of like cryptid encounter are the ones where like they have them in separate rooms and they tell them to draw something and then they compare and it's pretty similar.
That adds a little bit of credence, but again, it could have been, hey, what are we going to say it looked like when they ask us what it looked like?
That's why Pascagoula is like so like, as far as like credibility goes, a lot of them, a lot of UFO fanatics and like skeptics and all that actually say that, okay, that one's a little bit more believable because they didn't know they were being recorded.
Oh, okay.
They didn't know that. So like the cops put a tape recorder in the room, the interview, and they left them there and they just like listened to them talk and like you could genuinely hear the fear.
Oh wow!
In like their voice. Have you ever heard like the actual recording of it? It's wild. You should listen to it. Like it's crazy.
We'll have to do that for an episode.
Yeah. So yeah, the boys, they all draw this, the typical like the pointy head.
Yeah. They said it looked like a spade.
Yeah, kind of like a spade.
Yeah.
So, this of course it doesn't take long for like the town or like this story to like make national headline news. So you can imagine like with that, this very small town, a bunch of notoriety kind of just shows up to the town. The boys, they were interviewed over the years about the Flatwoods Monster. The boy's mom, Kathleen, and Jean, the 17-year-old, they actually end up going to New York to do an interview for CBS. However, I tried to find like the original like interview or article, and I couldn't like locate it at all. But apparently, they like ended up going to New York for like it's like as far as like notoriety and like fame that came out of this. So
of course,
and since then, like it's only been this one incident. Like there have been no other sightings of it. You know, it's kind of like a one and done type of thing.
That's crazy to me. That it just came and went so fast.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know about this one.
I mean, the Air Force ended up like, so this is like in the 1950s. So there's like a lot of things kind of going on during that time.
I mean, this is right off the heels of the big Roswell stuff too.
So you had Roswell back in 1947.
Yeah.
A couple years after that. I mean, like, you got to think.
And wasn't this also, from what I'm trying to recall about the Snallygaster and the Jersey Devil, weren't all these stories starting to pop up around that time too? Or was that the 60s?
That was like the 1920s, I thought. Wasn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
Because it was like the Prohibition era.
You might be right, yeah.
But you're not wrong about like Roswell. So this is like kind of right around like the time where the United States, America is kind of in like that flying saucer craze.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't like put two and two together, but like doing more research, I didn't realize like how much was actually going on in the U.S. when this goes on. So the 1952, that's basically like we're in like the infancy of the Cold
Korean War. I think it was 50s as well.
The Korean War is from 1950 to 1953 or 52 or 53.
Yeah.
1952 is kind of like some people say it was after we bombed Hiroshima, but like the Cold War, essentially we're in the infancy of the Cold War. So there's like a lot of like public distrust, espionage. We're in the middle of the second Red Scare, and McCarthyism. So I think like the natural
state of
mentality,
America,
people are on edge.
Yeah.
Oh, and on top of that, this is only like 47, so 4 or 5 years after the world has been introduced to the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
So like I don't think people really understand like how much of a game changer that was. Like once like nuclear weapons show up, like the mentality of like the whole entire world is like shifted.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible, and like every nation essentially, it's like an arms race now. Where like okay, everybody has a loaded gun pointed at you essentially.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's like a mass hysteria.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's just like the anxiety that had to have been like going on like around this time for like the average population was probably through the roof.
Yeah. And even small town Flatwoods, West Virginia wasn't out of that sight.
Exactly. I think the Air Force showed up. They did because, and that's another thing. So Project Blue Book, this is like when all that's kind of going down. So the Air Force is investigating like all these like flying, saucers and stuff, and all these reports. And with Project Blue Book, which was conducted between 1948 and 1969, the United States Air Force investigated 12,618 sightings. And of that number, 701 remained unexplained. Weird and terrifying.
That's weird.
And cool at the same time. Flatwoods, I'm assuming Flatwoods was one of the incidents that they investigated.
Could have been.
Oh, it was a bar now.
Yeah. I was going to say, one of the things that kind of stood out for me while looking was some of the members of the group that went and seen this thing first suffered from throat infections, vomiting, and nausea, which persisted for days. So they all had this, but then of course the people that showed up to investigate it passed it off as just side effects of hysteria, but also there's telltale signs of exposure to mustard gas. They said that it could be, and I don't know how they would have been exposed to mustard gas unless there was like a natural deposit of it or some sort.
Well, you can make it.
Or in some of the theories, you can make it.
I'm saying like I don't think the compound to make it's very because like when I was in like undergrad in chemistry, like he essentially taught us how to do it without like doing it. He was like, "Don't mix this. That'll create mustard gas."
Gotcha.
So it's not very hard to do.
So it's possible that somebody was making it somewhere nearby, maybe, or something along those lines. I was thinking also, since some claimed it to just be a meteor that crashed somewhere nearby. Do you think a meteor would give off the effects of mustard gas?
Well, I did see something about when the Air Force, when they did their investigation, whatever, they did notice that there was like a foul odor in the air, but they couldn't tell what it was.
Right.
I guess it's possible. That was
which is where the mist comes from. Where it's
the mist or the I mean, it's possible. They were saying the Air Force also noted that on that particular night, across the eastern sky.
There was a giant like meteor shower.
There was
I think
meteor showers going on that night or whatever, and they're like, oh, they could see it all as far as like Baltimore, and like it's so they were like, it was their final conclusion was it was just
a meteor
shower and a barn owl and
the red light was like a beacon or some sort of signal tower or something like along those lines.
Possibly, yeah, okay, like so like clearly they were like, okay, this is not like worth their time. Like just give them some bullshit, like it was a barn owl. Like,
these dumb kids and
like you think like the guy responsible of like typing up like the actual description when he got from the higher ups, it's a barn owl. Like, so this is a 10-foot creature. Like, it was a barn owl.
Look, they don't know really what they saw. We're just gonna go with barn owl.
How big are barn owls to you? Like, that doesn't.
They're big. I've never seen one.
What about the glowing red eyes? What about them?
Flashlight bounced off the barn owl's eyes. What about the head shaped like a spade? Clearly a barn owl. They're notorious for spade-shaped heads.
Jenkins, it is 3:59 on a Friday.
It is Christmas Eve.
I am ready to go the fuck home. You so help you God, do not type up that it's a damn barn owl. So yeah, I mean, like, it's possible. I tried to do some digging on, like, I didn't find anything about like, actual like recovered like debris, which would make sense. Let's say it was like this natural meteorite thing. Probably wouldn't find remnants of like a ship or anything. You might find like rocks and stuff, I guess, from like a crashed meteorite.
Yeah, you would. I mean, if it was a crashed meteor, I would assume there would be an impact site,
something,
unless it burned up completely before it reached the Earth, and then just kind of. But I guess if you don't know what you're looking for,
I don't
know if you ever find it.
And I didn't really see. So you'll find a lot of articles about the incident itself, but I wasn't really finding much on like the aftermath in terms of people like going back up to the site and investigating it or whatever and seeing if there was like a crash site, if there was like some sort of like, wreckage or anything like that. I haven't seen anything else since then. Like, it seems to have been like, it showed up that one night, and then like since then, like it moved on. Where did it go? I don't know. That's even more terrifying.
I mean, why hang around Flatwoods for too long if there's only 260 people there? You got world domination to achieve.
Makes you like ask like another question, like why of all towns like Flatwoods, West Virginia? So like some of these like small towns like that,
they're low key, out of the way. Nobody's ever gonna look there.
I guess
easy to hide out.
Possibly. That's another thing with like a lot of these like stories though, with about like cryptids and all that. It's these like little small towns that like they're trying to put themselves on the map, or a bunch of bored kids or whatever, so they make up like a story or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but usually these small towns like that they're off the map. Like they don't try to. Like a lot of these small towns don't want to be on the map. They try to keep themselves separated from the rest of societies because they like being in a small town. They like being away from all the hustle. That's why they live there. So why would they try to bring all this publicity to their town where they're probably like, oh, I don't want all these people knowing that we live here, because then they're all going to try to move in and change everything.
True. And it wasn't like Mothman where, that incident happened, and I've seen so many stories about like the Men in Black showed up, like government officials started showing up. Point Pleasant obviously has like a bigger population than what like, Flatwoods, West Virginia does.
Probably only barely though.
You think so?
I don't know, but I would assume it's probably not much of a, I don't think Point Pleasant's that big of a place.
I'm going to say at least 10,000. I'll bet you 10,000 weenies.
You would be terribly, terribly wrong. Half that. And then some. Back in 2020, the census was 4.1 thousand.
Holy shit, really? Oh, man.
So it's bigger, obviously, than 280 something people.
Yeah.
And this is 2020, so.
True. I would imagine it was a lot smaller back in the day. But that's a good point that you have, though, that, small towns, they really don't like the publicity and like the national headlines and stuff that happens when something like this does occur.
Right.
But out of that, though, I mean, that you kind of make like a positive situation out of like a bizarre situation. So there was like a boom in like the tourism and stuff afterwards, because people are coming here to like, I want to try to find the Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah, monster hunters.
Like monster hunters.
Anytime there's fanatics. A cryptid, obviously people have to know that people are going to come from everywhere to come try to find this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So that will obviously boost your tourism and give you a little jolt for commerce, I guess. again, what is there to do in Braxton County, West Virginia, or Flatwoods, West Virginia, that people are like, we need to get some tourists in here? Like,
not much.
Yeah.
Like
Especially back in 1952. Like,
I don't know what
would be the reason, unless they were trying to go from a small town to become a big town. They're like, what do we do to get some added tourism to our tiny little place over here? Let's come up with a cryptid, because those seems to be popping off all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I definitely think
it'd be cool if, I don't know if any of these people are still alive.
I think 2 of them are.
So just go interview them, and just outside of what you saw, if you are still sticking to the story that you've seen what you saw, like, what was the purpose of trying to bring this to a national pandemonium?
Yeah. So there's, I think the History Channel, they did like a series on it, like a bunch of cryptids, and like the Flatwoods Monster was like one of the episodes. It's either in the works or it already came out a couple years ago. We haven't seen it yet, but there's a documentary about the Flatwoods Monster where they had 2 of the original like people, and I think the gist of it is that they're kind of tired of all the interviews, because like they're like tired of it, but they're still sticking to what the story was. Like their story hasn't changed. And like the guy was like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like I know what I saw.
See what I've seen, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, like it's
this guy's probably like 80 years old at this point, just tired of everybody's shit.
Yeah, and he's like, he's basically not changing his story, and he's like, I know what I saw. I don't know why I saw it, but I saw it.
Yeah.
And which makes you like, he's 7 years old, 10 years old. They really don't have anything to gain,
right?
Out of like
out of this national pandemonium, like they outside of bringing all this attention in.
And
if anything, I would assume they'd be like getting in trouble by their parents back in the 50s of like, stop telling lies.
Well, I think the mom, I think, kind of gives a little bit more credence to the story, because she too was a witness that claimed that saw like what they saw. So
so it wasn't just 5 kids.
It wasn't just the kids. Like the mom was there too, and she apparently had witnessed like the monster as well.
Right.
And the one kid, he wasn't a kid. I mean, he was 17 years. I mean, he's a kid, but he's 17 years old. He was in the military, so like he sees this thing too, and that both of them get called to New York. I mean, they were out there playing football, minding their own damn business, like, and they see this thing streak across the sky,
right?
And they probably thought like, oh, cool, it's a meteor, right? I mean, like, oh, let's go look at it. It'll probably land in the field. They probably walked up the hill thinking that like, oh, we're going to find a crashed meteor, not expecting to see this like 10-foot monster thing, like just like waltzing up behind the tree.
just floating out here. Hey guys.
Just records crash.
You guys want to buy some cocaine?
You guys want to buy some shrooms? So like out of this incident, now Flatwoods, I have to justify the drive, because I want to see the museum. They have like a bunch of like memorabilia in there of like the Flatwoods Monster. I think there's a chair that you can sit in. Like the claws are there, and you can like take pictures and stuff of it.
Just to pick, it's a 3-hour drive, give or take, from us.
Maybe.
It would have to be one of those things where we would have to do like multiple all the West Virginia, things, like go to there to Point Pleasant and back.
No, apparently in that museum they have an actual piece of the oak tree that he supposedly was either perched up in or like came out from behind in the museum there, like a piece of like the tree.
So am I missing something? Because I thought it was in a barn. Why'd they call it a barn owl? If they it said it landed on a farm.
No, it crashed
maybe I just put 2 and 2. Maybe I didn't see that it was a barn.
No, so it supposedly crashed on a farm.
Okay.
So they go up to this like farm, like where it crashed, and they're walking up this hill, and there's this like oak tree there. And the kid, Gene, supposedly saw 2 red glowing eyes in like the tree.
Okay. All right. I get you now.
And then they get a little closer, and like maybe like it just descended from the tree, or maybe this thing was so tall that like he saw the eyes like over the tree branch. This thing was like 10 feet tall. It comes out from behind the tree like floating, and they see this like monster thing. Right. They're like, oh geez, what is that? And I'm guessing that the Air Force or whatever, because it crashed on the farm, they're like, oh, it's probably just a barn owl like perched over a tree. Yeah,
I got you now. So I was thinking maybe I just seen farm and put a barn in there.
Yeah.
And thought that this thing was just like went through the roof of the barn or something, and then they're like, whoa, let's go check out this barn, and then that's when they seen it. But okay, that makes more sense that he just floated out from behind a tree.
Yeah, like he was either like perched up, like he's that tall, or like just floated around or whatever. I like to imagine it was like a graceful descend, like a spiral.
Oh yeah, very. I feel like the Flatwoods Monster.
Oh, bougie,
Bougie's
like a mess.
I think okay, this might be like a weird pull, but it's like sometimes I think of like how these little cryptids would be like wrestlers or something. Yeah. The Flatwoods Monster to me is not a wrestler; he's a drag queen.
I was just thinking that. Like we like straight up RuPaul energy.
Yeah.
Like, look at him. Like he's just like look.
Yeah, he is.
He's gorgeous. He's sitting there like he's got these long ass nails. He's just like
long nails. Yeah.
He's got the glitter like all down like
glowing
his like
metallic green dress.
Yeah, like he's like he's fabulous. He's fabulous. He
total
knows
diva.
He's yeah. Oh yeah, total diva. He was probably trying to ask them for like, do you guys have any hand sanitizer? I just touched this
oh my gosh,
this moldy log. Like my car just crashed.
It was just straight up Valley Girl.
Yeah, and I'm stuck here and I'm trying to get home. Well, where do you live? I live up there.
like in the tree? No.
No, you dumbass. I live in the nebula.
It just gives you the most.
He's like super pretentious. Yeah, I get that vibe. He's not like your typical like Bigfoot. Where
that's why
like,
he came down, seen this bumfuck town that he just landed in, or she, or he, or it, or whatever, and was like, "I'm not staying here." Just bolts and leaves.
That's why he's only
like this is his only first and only impression of Earth, and it's just
and
like
never came back.
There's dirt everywhere. People smell. What are these little things running around? These little tiny human things. I don't want any part of this.
I just came here to use the bathroom and leave.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This just begs the question, is Earth just like the truck rest stop of the galaxy?
I wouldn't be surprised. Like,
aliens just pass there like, oh yeah, you stop at Earth, there's a good rest station there.
Don't go there.
Some good food every now and then, but a lot of times it's just a bunch of, people just don't even care. Yeah, they're too wrapped up in their own stuff.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever even talked to a human before? It's the most bizarre experience. It's the only reason why.
I probed one once.
Like, why would you do that?
I just wanted to see what I was eating.
For science, like we eat them.
Yeah, I just wanted to see what the ingredients label was. There's like a big alien convention, and they all just talk shit about Earth all the time.
Oh yeah, dude, they're totally ragging on Earth.
Yeah,
like it's like we were going to intervene, but then they came up with this atomic bomb, and it was only a matter of time for them.
And we thought that like they were getting better. We thought they were finally ready to have this experience, and then we stopped and landed, and then they attacked us, and we left.
1947? No, we didn't crash there. That's a bunch of bullshit.
No,
we landed there. We showed up with good intentions.
They even gave us a tour of their space operations facilities out in they called it Area 51.
And I was like, oh, this is a nice facility you got here.
And they hit me in the head with a baseball bat and kept me kept in a cage.
Next thing I know, I'm blacked out. I'm in a hole in their lower.
Spread eagle. Lying on a cold metal table. And they said my safe word was taco. What the hell's a taco? To this day, I don't know.
Haven't been back since.
And that's the Flatwood Monster's like, I get it. I was there for 5 minutes.
And that was enough.
I seen him and I mustard gassed him.
Because that's all I had on me at the time. It completely makes sense now as to why it hasn't shown up since
we're just the rest stop.
Yeah, it makes sense.
We're the I-81 rest stop.
Oh, that's terrible. That's scary. No, it hasn't shown up since then.
Yeah, so I was going to say, there hasn't been any modern sightings. There hasn't been any recent new information on this. Like we said, they kind of debunked it. They came in and said, oh, this was just a meteor shower and a barn owl. And that's it. And then since then, it's like nobody can ever say, well, we don't have any proof to say otherwise at this point. And it's never shown back up again.
And that's, another thing, like doing some, like further digging on it. I didn't any sort of like follow up, or like revisiting like the case or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
opened and closed.
Yeah, pretty much.
In a week.
Like it's, and it could have been too that the Air Force, they're probably looking at these like kids, and it's like, okay, like it's just like little kids. Like don't even waste your time and the resources and the energy. Like. And I wouldn't even be surprised if the guy like reading the report, he said it crashed in a farm and was like, okay, it was probably a barn owl. Like just chalk it up as a barn owl. Right. Like it was literally like 3:59 p.m. on a Friday. He's like about to clock out. It's like that's a Monday problem for now. Like just
I don't have time to wrap my head around this right now, Jerry. I just have a lot of stuff going on. My wife just left me.
It's like, so I don't think you understand. There is a drag queen,
a 10-foot tall drag queen out in the woods.
Yeah,
he's like, this is the 50s. What's a drag queen?
What are you talking about? It's like, yeah, I'm not sure, like, you know, what it was. You know, they're convinced that they saw something, like the kids or whatever. And
yeah, so I did see another instance. It was the day after the Flatwood Monster was initially seen on September 12th. Have you heard the Flatwoods Ground Pounder? Which, ironically, is not a sex position, but... Gave her the old Flatwoods Ground Pounder, baby. So reportedly, a couple people named George and Edith Snitsky, Snowitzky, and their 18-month-old son were driving through the rural area between Clay and Braxton County on Route 4 when their car suddenly died. Mr. I don't know how to say this guy's name. Snitowski. I'm going to call him Snitowski. Attempted to restart the car to no avail. It was nighttime and the road was deserted. While they were trying to decide what to do, a foul, sulfurous smell, say that 10 times fast, Jesus, filled the air and their baby began to cry. A strange bright light filled the darkness, and the couple witnessed a 10-foot-tall creature hovering in front of their car. The description is similar to that of what the original sighting was, except the monster was not wearing what is presumed to be his spade-like hood or head. Yeah. Instead, its head was reportedly a reptilian and bony. The creature dragged its lizard-like hands across the hood of the car before drifting away into the woods. As soon as the monster was out of sight, the car restarted and the couple sped away. He later gave his account for Mail magazine in July of 1955. So this was the day after. So if we're looking,
he didn't report it till almost 3 years later.
Yeah.
And what was the magazine called?
Mail magazine, like MALE.
Okay, so he reports this thing 3 years later to a magazine called Mail Magazine.
Yes.
And did he name it the Flatwoods Ground Pounder?
I don't know if he named it that, but somebody called it the Flatwoods Ground Pounder.
What is Mail Magazine? Yeah, okay, I've seen these. It's like these, like, you ever seen these? Like these, like, Pulp Fiction-esque cover, like those.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like horny a little bit.
All right, well.
I'm not discrediting what this man saw.
He's seen this thing walk out of the woods. He's like, all right, now we're talking.
And all that pent up, like, just
sexual 1955 energy that they couldn't get out watching Elvis Presley play. They had to.
He needed more. Elvis wasn't enough for him.
Yeah, he needed a 10-foot tall reptilian drag queen.
Thing walked out, it was like right there. But he still needed a safe way to report it because in the 50s, people are, it's like a hush hush. You don't really talk about it.
Yeah.
So he goes to Mail Magazine and he reports it as the
Flatwoods Ground Pounder.
It's what he wanted to do when he saw this thing. I like how too, like the report.
Now I need that for a sticker though. I just want a sticker that says, "I believe in Flatwoods of Ground Pounding." Or something.
Flatwood Ground Pounder.
I believe in Flatwoods Ground Pounders. Give them the old Flatwoods Ground Pound.
Flatwoods Ground Pounder pounded me at a Denny's. That's like I still want to know where that bumper sticker comes from. What inspired it?
Flatwoods Ground Pounder pounded my ground in the Spot in Braxton County, West Virginia, which the Spot is an ice cream shop in Flatwoods where you can take a picture with a painted iteration of the Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah, so like the whole town.
Just a shout out to the Spot.
The whole town's like imbued, like their welcome sign when you get to the town. Yeah. It's like home of the Green Monster.
Yeah, I wonder why would they call it? So you got the Flatwoods Monster, the Green Monster, the Phantom of Flatwoods, the Flatwoods Ground Pounder.
Why that one has a stock? It's beyond me. I like
Flatwoods Phantom. That one I like.
That one sounds cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Flatwoods Monster is kind of like the basic.
Yeah. You also said that it was named Braxy.
Yeah.
Or some people just refer to it as Braxy.
I guess some people refer to it as Braxy. Like, I didn't find anything, but I'm assuming that others call it that. It's just so bizarre to me. I'm normally pretty skeptical about most like things.
But this is you believe.
Something happened. Something happened because it was enough to I think there's more like credence to like when these small towns like start talking about something because like nothing ever happens in these towns.
Yeah. Again, it's not a tourist spot.
It's not. Like, no one's going to go out in, like, the middle of, like, Flatwoods or whatever.
Yeah.
And
it's not like the instance with the Snallygaster where it was a newspaper trying to gain readership.
Yeah, there was, like, something to gain from there. It's like, and it was just a bunch of kids playing football. And, like I said, this thing just shows up and, like, they're freaking out. The cops, like, laugh it off. They were like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, of course.
They're like, whatever.
It's 1952. These guys don't care.
Yeah, and it's like,
they've got domestic violence cases to ignore.
It's like, you know, and it's the 50s. Nothing crazy happens in the 50s, but everything in the world. Yeah, everything. Like, that's like another thing, too. Like, those, like, TV shows and those movies that kind of take place in, like, the 1950s.
Yeah. You ever see Pleasantville? That's what I always think of. With Timmy McGuire.
Was it like a bunch of creepy shits going on? Or
it was a bunch of it was like Timmy McGuire was. It's been so long since I've seen it, but he was either transported or something happened where he was replaced into like a suburban utopia 1955 place, and it was filmed in black and white. And then once all the shit starts going down, it gradually switches to color, and like things start. Yeah, it's creepy, but it's cool. That's a good one. You should watch that sometime.
You should. The 50s in general was just like that kind of like...
that vibe.
Just that vibe.
Again, like you were saying earlier, it's like a reflection of the time where everything seemed perfect in the 50s, but you had that looming threat of alien invasions, Cold Wars.
We're only one button away from getting off the planet.
Right, like, exactly.
You know, and it's like,
Or we're in that case, we're the ones pressing the button.
Yeah, but I think like at that point, because I actually watched the thing the other day about the Cold War. So at the time, Truman, he's basically like he's being pressured to like you got to end the war like quick in Japan because you know we defeated the Nazis first, but Japan was still like they weren't surrendering, and essentially I never knew this, but apparently Russia was intending on coming up through Russia to China. And invading like Japan. They were going to try to take over Asia. Yeah. So then, and that's what essentially started the Cold War. We defeated the Nazis, and then Truman is basically getting urged from like his general, hey, we got to end this quick because Russia's going to try to like come. We can't let them take that. So that's what was like his, okay, fine, like let's nuke them and kind of like, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And he was like all like, I want to say he wasn't happy about it. I think he was more happy that they were finally going to put the war behind him. Mm-hmm. He gets like the green light, we can't nuke. They were going Kyoto was going to be one of the original targets, but they were like, that's like the civilian tech city. We don't really want to do that. That's like, it's inhumane. Mm-hmm. Let's nuke Hiroshima because it's a military target. Right. There was only one military base in Hiroshima. Truman's like, okay, yeah, sure. Let's do that. Care. So he's under the impression that it's like an actual military installation. And then like, of course, after it happens, all the reports start coming out. And they tell him, he's like, sir, we lost like over, 100,000, civilians or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they said like his demeanor like changed instantly. And like he started having like stress, like panic attacks and stuff like that. Because like it was all in his like conscience. So yeah, like we were the first ones to use it. But I think once the United States like demonstrated that power to the whole entire world, now everybody's like racing to get their own version of it.
Right.
And it's like, oh crap. So, we may be the only ones that have this right now, but we're only 1 second away, from, the rest of the world having it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody's like on edge in the 50s. And like going back to what you said, I think that's what kind of like led to that like creepy, just unsettling.
Yeah. It's the classic. 50s seem perfect on the outside when you're looking at it through rose-colored glasses, but there was just that looming undertone of
danger,
world destruction,
every corner,
and rock and roll music.
It's a sinful time.
Bunch of damn sinners out
Elvis up there shaking in his britches.
You gotta film him from the waist up.
That's like the 50s was such a weird time.
It was a time of where you were so much pent up sexual tension and nobody knew what to do with it.
So then Elvis just shows up and starts dancing, and it's just like starts releasing some of that tension.
Yeah, pretty much. It made it okay to like express yourself. Yeah, that's essentially what that was.
And so they had like committees, I'm assuming, of like a bunch of producers in like these like TV studios, and like that was like a memo agenda at one point in time. All right, let's discuss this meeting. It's like, okay, we can't film this guy from the waist up. And look at where we're at now.
Oh, man.
We've come such a long way. Now we've got Borat on screen doing the helicopter.
That's not as... No, that was Bruno.
That was Bruno.
That was even worse. Jesus. Not right. Anyways. So getting back to the Flatwoods Monster. Pop culture. Anything in pop culture regarding the Flatwoods Monster? Is he in Fallout 76
Good
too?
old fashioned Fallout 76
Of course he is. Of course he's in there.
He does show up in Fallout 76 as a,
Does he look the same?
He actually looks more like an alien. It's like he's got like a glass helmet, and he's got like the little boosters. Like
That's pretty cool.
It's a cool rendition of him, I guess. I suppose. You wouldn't want to mess with him. I never came across him.
Yeah. Never played Fallout 76, so I don't know.
You need to.
We'll see. Maybe one day.
That's
only for the cryptids.
We can go around in our power armor and just the super sledge and just beat the shit out of cryptids. We got to shoot them. We just got to teach them a lesson.
Just teach them. Just don't come back around here.
Just like one hammer. Any pop culture references that you found?
Not really that I found. I was mostly just going to touch on the Flatwood Monster Museum down in Braxton County. It's actually in the downtown of Sutton, West Virginia. Sutton. Sounds like an old cowboy. Isn't that Yellowstone Dutton? Maybe that's what it is.
Those are the Duttons, yeah.
It was started as an old pharmacy building, but now it is a visitor center. But Andrew Smith, I think this is an up-to-date article. Actually, okay, this was in 2019, so I don't know if he still owns it or not. But Andrew Smith is the executive director of the Braxton County Visitors Museum. He said that it was originally supposed to be the Braxton Visitor Center. What started as a small shelf of Flatwoods Monster paraphernalia turned into an entire museum. He said he would say that over 95% of his traffic is because it's a Flatwoods Monster Museum and not because it's a visitor center. So people are going there for the Flatwoods Monster and not because they wanted to do anything in Sutton, West Virginia, I guess. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, as far as like other references, they talk about, like I mentioned earlier, the History Channel. They did like a series called Project Blue Book, and there was an episode based off of like the Flatwoods Monster. He's in Fallout 76. Apparently he's in Everybody's Golf 4. Oh, I completely forgot about that game.
Can you golf as the Flatwoods Monster?
I don't know. I don't know if he shows
I hope you
up.
can. That would be fun.
That'd be cool.
Just launch like an 800-yard drive. Just because he's got that crazy drag queen alien strength.
Dude. He just majestically rolls out on like the
just floats out.
Just floats out gracefully.
It's like his clubs just materialize in his hand, and he just like reaches his hand out, and then just whoosh.
Like he gives me like Sailor Moon energy.
Yeah.
Where he puts on like the and just like materializes into like this like
Flatwoods Monster, the Sailor Moon of cryptids.
Do you think he has an accent?
Yes.
I'd give him like a spicy accent.
Very spicy. I was thinking Valley Girl, like I said earlier. I was thinking Valley Girl, but
or like
really pretentious Frenchman.
No, like like a Spaniard.
Oh, like a Zorro?
Or like a Pedro Pascal. Like he's got like that.
Pedro Pascal talks like a normal guy.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't have an accent.
You mean like Antonio Banderas, maybe?
Yeah, there you go. Banderas, like he looks like a normal dude, and then he just puts on this like
the persona.
He puts on the helmet, and it just like materializes into the Flatwoods Monster.
He's like a Dr. Fate.
Yeah, basically, he puts on the helmet, and it just like turns into the robe and like just like the glitter, and
he just becomes fabulous.
He's fabulous instantly. Like you can't go wrong.
What do you think about the Flatwoods Monster? What do you think it was?
I think it's real.
You think he's real?
He's a freaking barn owl. Get the fuck out of that shit. It's barn owl. Like what? Like it doesn't.
So if you think he's real, why do you think we haven't seen him again?
Probably because
like what I said, where he just left because this was a trash planet and he left it.
Yeah, if I'm like an alien and I have the capability to like land everyone, he was probably like playing like spin the bottle with like a bunch of his buddies up in like his spaceship, and they're like, all right, wherever this lands, that's where we're gonna land.
The wheel. It's the big wheel.
And it's like Flatwoods, West Virginia.
Let's play Wheel of Planets. Spins it. Ooh, looks Earth, like you got Earth.
Yeah, Earth, and like the whole crowd just
yeah. What is the game show with the where they touch the
Wheel of Fortune?
Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, that's it.
Wheel of Fortune.
That's what it's flying. It's like, all right, come on, big money, big money, big money, big.
It's like Vegas.
No, it's not even Vegas. It's different planets, and like the one is like in the gold. It's like a
it's like Utopia. Like,
exactly. It's like Krypton before it exploded, and then the next one is all black and it's Earth. It just does that thing where it's like almost stays in the gold and it one click over it.
Oh, God. It's like, all right, now let's see where you're actually gonna go, and like, and
then it goes Price is Right. It's like, It's a trip to Flatwoods, West Virginia. Spend one day and one night in this luxury 200-person town where there's nothing to do.
Like, oh man, like, do I still have to keep playing?
Yes, and then they just launch him.
In the meteorite, it's like a red beaming.
It's just like the black hole opens and it's or a wormhole.
Yeah, just sucked up in there, like, no!
And right there he goes, and that's the red streak.
And that's how he just it's all coming together.
It's like, luckily he only had to spend one day here.
All finally coming together. It makes complete sense. I like that story more than a fucking barn owl. Like, what kind of dumbass shit is that?
It was the 50s, man. You don't know what a barn owl in the 50s looked like. It was juiced up on cigarettes that had no filters and burgers with donuts on top. You don't know.
You can do better than that. Like, come on, at least make it believable. Like, it started like glowing red. It was barn owl. Like, you're really going to make me write that down, aren't you? Like, I got to go do a press conference in front of all these people.
What if the guy that was telling him what it was like a barn owl, it was actually, he was the Flatwoods Monster. He was just like a closeted drag queen.
I mean, that's a possibility.
He was like put on like
okay, well, how do you explain
like
10 feet?
He was like he's like 6'4", and he puts on some lift boots that makes him look 7 feet tall.
4 foot.
And then so he looks 7 feet tall.
Okay.
His body is 7 feet tall, and then he puts on this extravagant headpiece that adds another 2 feet. 2 feet's only this big. I mean, you've seen costumes these days.
I suppose.
And this guy he was just like out doing like one of those, like, he was just like doing a little dance out in the woods, thinking nobody's going to find him. And then the next thing he knows, he's just like a full show-stopping number out in the middle because he like couldn't tell anybody that his true love was dance.
Like, what are you doing, mister?
And then he just rips a huge fart. That's why I smell sulfur.
See, now that theory has substance. No, give me that kind of energy. Like if a fully decorated air serviceman came and said that at a press conference,
I would believe it.
No questions asked. I would believe that shit in a heartbeat. But if he's going to have the
today, September 12th, 1952, we had a disturbance called in to our offices where they described a 10-foot tall monster in a green dress with a spade-like hood. We discovered that the monster was actually Agent Jenkins, dressed in a very flamboyant outfit, and he looked fabulous. I will be taking no questions on this at this time. Please respect Jenkins' privacy. Thank you.
It's like, I don't have any. Like, that was it. That's how there were specifics.
That all checks out.
There was a date and time.
Instead of September 12th, 752, we found a barn owl.
It's like
you what?
A 10-foot barn owl, sir.
Yep.
How do you describe the
questions?
Oh, yeah, basically. See, like, I'd believe that. That's more like I
so we have 3 possibilities here.
3 theories: barn owl,
intergalactic alien who just stopped at a rest stop or was transferred here via some weird game show via like Jimmy Neutron-esque, where they went to that planet where it was a game show planet.
Yeah.
And then, or third is it was a very large man in a drag costume doing a musical number in the woods and was discovered, and then dropped a stink bomb and left. Those are our theories. If you have any theories, let us know what they are.
We'd love to hear your theories on the Flatwood Monster. Good old Braxy.
Good old Braxy. We should go check out that museum. We should. We should make a road trip out of it. We can go visit Braxton and then go to Point Pleasant and come back.
I can't do it. I can't justify driving 6 hours for
Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Okay, so
I mean, that's halfway there. I mean, it's only another 3 hours to Point Pleasant. If that, probably maybe only 2.
But
it's just more crazy to me that it takes that long to get across West Virginia. One of these days.
It's close to like
we need to spread our net far and wide.
It's close to Cleveland, right? If there was like some like metropolitan city,
it's out down past Morgantown. It's not anywhere near Cleveland. I mean, you could go to Cleveland, I guess, from there, but it is only an hour and 51 minutes away from Point Pleasant. So we can make a road trip to there and Point Pleasant in a 4-hour trip one way.
Like Pittsburgh or like Cincinnati.
Cincinnati's good. We go to Cincinnati.
So like go there and then drive to like Cincinnati and see the city and then
come back. Flatwoods Monster. That's all I got.
What are your thoughts? Do you think it was an actual thing?
I think it was a meteor shower.
No.
I don't know. I'm with you. I think that they saw something.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was a barn owl.
No.
It had to have been something bigger than that.
No.
Yeah, I think they've seen something. So, like you said, there's nothing for them really to gain from lying about it.
No.
Besides just being kids and having fun. But at that time, again, you have to know that it's going to bring in that kind of publicity. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's going to wrap up this episode of Shadows and Sightings. You can always find us on Facebook, Shadows and Sightings Paranormal Podcast, Instagram, Shadows and Sightings Pod. Drop us an email, shadowsandsightings@gmail.com. Our next episode is going to drop Tuesday, and we're going to be finally tackling everybody's favorite cryptid, the Mothman. And it's going to come... So we did this one, like I said, this episode's going to drop it right around the anniversary of the Flatwoods Monster sighting.
Mm-hmm.
Mothman episode's going to come out. Mothman Festival is that weekend. So if you're going to Mothman Festival, you'll have something to listen to on your way down. Mothman's my favorite cryptid.
He's definitely up there. He's like my top 3.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for that dropping. We drop them every Tuesday. If you have any time to give us a nice review on any of the the platforms you listen to this podcast on, we greatly appreciate it. We'll see you next time when we talk about all things spooky.